Om Sarve Janaha Sukino Bhavantu Dirghayushman Bhava Stribhyaha Dirgha Sumangali Bhava Kanya Stribhyaha Shigrameva Vivaha Praptirastu Sarva Shubhamangalani Abhivriddhir Bhavatu Tathastu. So I am continuing my Mandukhya Upanishad part 3 in English. So we saw in the last part 2 that everything is Maya because Mayaya Vidyate hi etat na anyata ajam kathanchana. Only through Maya. Otherwise the tattvata vidyamane hi martyatam amridam vrajet. The immortal will become mortal if they... Now we have to see in the same Advaita Prakarana section 3, the next verse which is 20. The Rishi goes on explaining philosophically how the changeless cannot be changeful, how the immortal can become mortal or create mortal. If it creates mortal, then it becomes mortal also. The changeless, if it changes itself to mortality, then the changeless becomes changeful. Therefore, the changeless character of the immortality is not defined or proved. A changeless has to be changeless always, an immortal has to be immortal always, an infinite has to be infinite always, and there cannot be plus one. So a changeless cannot even for a brief moment change itself to mortality, to mortal beings, or create people like us. So it becomes changeful. So for the definition of it being changeless permanently, always it has to be changeless, is defeated. Is it not? See, this is a high philosophical thinking. That means a changeless has to be changeless. That's what the Rishi asks. How the changeless can change itself when it is changeless always permanently, and it is eternal, and it is immortal. So a changeless cannot create human beings who are changeful. The body of ours is untruth. It is impermanent. It is not permanent. It decays. So if the changeless creates something which is changeful like us, then the changeless itself becomes changeful. That's what the Rishi beautifully in the series of arguments in Advaita Prakarana section 3 he argues. Now he says Ajatasya eva, Ajatasya means Jatah Ajatah, unborn, of the unborn, eva Bhavasya, Ajatasya eva Bhavasya Jatim Ichanti Vadinah. The Vadinah, the arguers, the one who gives the Vadams, the dualists or the atheists or the other people. It says Vadinah. So Ajadasya eva Bhavasya Jatim. Jati means the birth. The Jati, we say, no? The Jatim Ichanti Vadinah. Beautifully says. Ajatah, Ajato, it will come in the original verse. If you do the Sandhi, it is Ajato, Ajatah, Amruto Bhavah. Ajatah, the unborn, is Amruto Bhavah. So, Martyatam Katham. Martyatam Katham Eshyati. Eshyati means seek or sees or desires. So that bhavah, the ajatah, amritah bhavah, martyatham katham eshyati, he is asking. Lovely question. The changeless, the bhava, the nature, the state of the changeless is changeless always. It cannot change itself or create something which is perishable or impermanent even for a second or even for an atom. It cannot. The changeless is changeless always. So how it can desire for something changeful, something which is impermanent, something which is perishable? Even the thought of it to have something which is changeful makes it changeful. That is, it is not changeless always. It has to be changeless always. That is the definition of a God as per our word. The highest philosophical Rishi, Mandukya Rishi, and his successors Gaudapada, Govindapada Acharya, they are trying to define like this so that all the Bhimasena, Nagarjuna of the Buddhist thoughts also go along these lines. The changeless has to be changeless always. It cannot change. How can the immortal change itself to mortal, or desire itself to be mortal, or create something which is mortal? Because if it does so, then that immortal becomes mortal, the changeless becomes changeful, what is permanent becomes impermanent like us. So how we can be? We can be only through Maya. That's what the Rishi argues. Only by Maya you perceive. As I told you in the third stage, Sushuptam, that is a deep sleep, you don't see the sun. You are not aware that you are existing, the deep sleep. But you are ignorant because you open your eyes. So, he says, the creation itself is Maya. That's what, because if the creator or the immortal creates something which is mortal, then the immortal also becomes mortal. Martyatam amridam vrjet, last 19th verse we saw. And this verse is how it can desire the changeless, how it can desire to be changeful, how these people can argue like that. It has to be changeless always. Even a thought of something which is changeful by the changeless, by the immortal, by whatever it is called God, can be defeated, because once it thinks of a changeful form, it is defeated. It is not changeless always. It cannot create something which is changeful. Then therefore, the Rishi in the next verse number 21, very clearly says, Na bhavati amritam. Amritam na bhavati amritam martyum. Very clear. Na bhavati amritam martyum, na martyum amritam tatha. Prakritehe, of the prakritehe, anyatha bhavaha na katanchit bhavishyati. Prakritehe, of the prakrita or for the prakrita, to the prakriti is the shabda. Prakrite is Chaturthi Vibhakti, as also Shashti Vibhakti. Fourth, for and to or of, possessive. Both it can be used. So, Prakritehe. So, na bhavati, what? This amritam cannot be martyum. Na martyum amritam. Naturally, the martyum, the mortal cannot be immortal. Tatha, in the same way, it is very clear, the Rishi in the verse number 21, the next verse I am saying. In the same way, prakritehe anyatha kathanchit, anyatha na kathanchit bhavishyati prakritehe. So of the prakriti, this anyatha rupaha, anyatha bhavaha na kathanchit bhavishyati will become. What? Anya rupaha. That means a changeless has to be changeless always only. A changeless cannot be changeful, an immortal cannot create something which is mortal, because they are all permanent, and eternal cannot be create something which is non-eternal. Even the thought of a non-eternal makes the eternal non-eternal. So it becomes, the immortal becomes mortal by itself. If it creates something which is mortal, or if it changes the changeless changes its form, and by creating something, it cannot be infinite plus one, it is full, it is changeless, it is immortal. That is what in both these 20 and 21, the Rishi brings out the argument. The changeless cannot be, that bhavaha cannot be there anyway. Na bhavati also, the amritam cannot be martyum, and the martyum cannot be amritaha. The mortal cannot be immortal also. Because if the mortal comes and it changes itself to immortal, the immortal gets polluted, he says. Therefore, there is nothing called the mortal, the creation, Everything can be only through Maya. See, there is a substantial argument. You have to hear my full series on this, because we are experiencing the world which is very real to us. We pray to God, and whether God exists and all is a question. That's what we are coming to that point. We are driving. The Rishi also will drive. So, these 20 and 22 words in subsequently to the 19th verse, we say everything is through Maya, because the Rishi says the changeless cannot be a changeful. An immortal cannot become an immortal, because an immortal tries to become an immortal, the immortal becomes mortal. A changeless cannot change its form. An infinite cannot add, or infinite cannot change itself. That's what the arguments of these Rishis. So the Rishi is very clear. Ajatasya, he says, of the unborn, jataha ajataha. Ajatasya eva, that's what the Rishi beautifully say. Bhavasya, the rupa, the nature, the state. Bhava means the existence, the state, its bhava, its qualities, its nature. It's a wide meaning. Bhavasya, that's what. Jatim, how can you say it is born? Ichanti vadinaha. The vadinaha will say only the unborn becomes the born. Only the God transfer himself to the birth. See, these are all there. But how these rishis, this line of particular rishis, captured by Buddha, Buddha also, Buddha was mainly influenced by all these things. By thoughts, by own. Like Ramana Maharshi, he never referred to all these Upanishads, but by nature he said, go to the I thought. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. See, this is the natural thinking of these great rishis. So, my dear friends, the more of it I will continue. Please stay, follow all my lectures, so that it will create, it will give an idea about this world, the existence, where these rishis are all answering, and we can find an answer. And I will tell you the answer. With this, today's session is over. Bhuyat Tavat Shubhamangalam. Hari Om.